Welcome back. Ramez Helou here with you, founder and keynote speaker at the Academy for Sales Excellence, helping you sell more, sell faster, and profitably. I have with me here again Amal Loring from MBD, founder of MBD, where she simply helps organizations become more efficient and effective through cultural understanding. And the nice thing is we were talking a bit about selling, and the concept of individualistic society and collective society came up, especially selling in this part of the world. Could you give us a little bit of insights on how that impacts, or what's the implication of not taking this in consideration, selling in this part of the world, Amal?
Sure, Ramez, yes. Thank you very much, and great to be here again.
Welcome.
Let me just define simplistically the differences between individualistic and collective societies by taking, for example, 15-year-old young man. So in individualistic societies at 15 going onwards, your parents sit down and say, okay, you want to go in this degree and do that, and you want to go marry this person. And really they're beginning to cultivate you and prepare you to leave, as they say, the nest by the time you're 18. So really the universities or colleges that you go to, who you marry and where you live is really, up to you. And typically in the West, people leave home at 18. It's very unusual for a person to still be at home at 25, 30, 40 plus. Now in collective societies, that person reaching sort of 15, 16 will sit down with their parents, and their parents will say, right, we'd like you to go to this university here in the UAE or Saudi or with the home country, and if you're going to go outside to say MIT, then it will be with a cousin or brother or somebody in your family. So you're guided to really which career, which university you're going to attend, and then the type of spouse that you're going to marry, and then ultimately also where you live. So decisions are made in that collective sense, not just an individual. Now, how does that relate to the commercial world, to the corporate world? As an individual, say, wanting to buy a product or service from one of the salespeople that you've successfully trained, they will go for what they believe is called the decision maker. So the decision maker also is the wallet holder, and will go to an individual, say IT director, and that individual will make that decision, and whether it's a good or bad decision, so be it. Now, the mistake that I see people making here in the UAE, particularly where there's different nationalities, different GCCs or local Emiratis, is that they go to that person thinking that person makes the decision. Now, what happens in reality is that person behind them is a large group or majlis of people, informal group and formal group, who will make that decision. So if it turns out to be a good decision, that's great, that was the person. And if it was a bad decision, then a group of people who made it you can't be held to blame for everyone. So that honour, if you like, in that honour-shame society is preserved. So really, when you're selling into an organisation where you've got this honour-shame, which relates to the GCC and the Emiratis, it's to make sure that you're selling high and wide. Now, if you look also at the aspect of talent management, and when you're acquiring and wanting somebody, for say an Emirati, to come on board, that again is a completely different decision-making process. And I think we're going to hear a bit from Talib about that.
Right. So, wow. So individualistic versus collective. From a sales perspective, I understand it, but from a recruitment process. So let's shift gears in here. I have with me again Talib Abdul Muttalib Hashim, also known as Talib. Talib is the founder, he is actually an Emiratization expert, one of the members on the team responsible for brainstorming the Dubai strategic plans for 2021. Talib, again, welcome back on the show.
Marhaba Ramez, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure. So can you pick up a little bit on what Amal was saying in terms of, okay, so I'm an Emirati, I go to a private sector company and I'm interviewing for a job. So how does the individualistic versus collective society impact the decision of this individual?
It's a very important point, Ramez. A lot of employers express their frustration to me that of UAE national job seekers who they feel are not as committed or serious about their careers. Part of the complaint is when they offer employees or job seekers jobs, they show the UAE national talent or job seekers express their interest and keenness to join the organization. But what happens is that after signing the offer letter, they don't come back and join the organization. And to private sector employers specifically, that is a sign of non-commitment or not taking your career seriously. What these employers fail to understand is that being a collective society, as Amal had mentioned, the decision-making process is different. The UAE national job seeker, the young UAE national job seeker, has to go back home, get that buy-in from their parents, from the family, to join a particular organization. And that is the key to that. A lot of employers fail to understand that.
Wow. Can you give me an example of how organizations that you know of, aware of this fact, how have they, let's say, worked to avoid this gap from affecting the recruitment process?
You know, the hotel industry, Ramez, was very quick to understand that predicament, especially in the talent acquisition process. And what hotels have done as part of their recruitment process is that they've included a part where they invite the parents and the family for a tour around the hotel so that the parents are comfortable, are familiar with the environments and the setting where the UAE nationals will be working in. And this is a very good example of employers really understanding the cultural background, what comes into play, and focusing on that value proposition.
Great, great. So touring the hotel, I think this is one thing, but tell me more a bit about how have other companies understood the value proposition? So today, as an organization, it's not just about what I pay to my employees, but it's also about what the employees get in terms of non-financial benefits. So could you share with me some examples of how organizations who understood the differentiation of creating that value proposition have helped them to attract and retain and work with local Emiratis?
Yes. Before that, I would like to cite here that a common mistake employers make is that they focus on, in terms of value proposition, they offer to Emirati employees, they focus on the salary they will offer or the working hours. And they completely forget that the value proposition has more than one component or those two components, especially in the context of this culture.
Right.
We're talking about...
You know, I'll just pause you. In sales, I always tell my audiences that if someone joins you because of price, somebody will leave you because of price.
Absolutely.
So you better have something more than just price.
More
In this
than
case,
that.
it would be the salary and timing that you offer.
Exactly. And they forget that the value proposition has more than one component, which includes, for example, reputation of the organization, long-term career growth, and long-term career opportunity for the national, this respect in the environment, which Amal had emphasized on. And then leadership is also important. An example I want to share here is that I have local young Emiratis come to me where the offer at hand for employment is a medium-sized business, not very attractive. However, because the leadership is familiar, the leadership is known in the community, could be one of the family businesses, and that
No, these are multi-million-dollar family businesses.
Absolutely.
Okay.
These are multi-million family business, but they also actually range from medium-size all the way to multi-million. What they've done is they've successfully managed to attract nationals and keep them in the organization while they still pay private sector salaries. The working hours are similar to the private sector. So what did they get right? The fact that leadership is known in the community projects a reputation of trust and familiarity. That goes a long way for UAE national job seekers.
Is career progression important in terms of that value proposition?
It is very important. If I may, I'd like to cite another example
Yeah.
where because a particular organization, which is a very well-known multinational and known globally, but not so well-known here in the community, what they did is they offered a young Emirati a job offer without addressing their future in the organization. That includes career growth, training, and development. What happened is this Emirati, surprisingly, to the multinational employer, refused the offer. And when I spoke to this Emirati candidate, she told me that, what will I go back and tell my husband? What is my future in this organization compared to my future in maybe the government sector or XYZ company? So this organization had everything. It was a multinational, very well known, great benefits, but she couldn't see what the future had for her in this organization. So Emiratis are very keen to really understand at the beginning, what is the career potential for me? What is the career growth? So that they can actually deflect any skepticism that comes from the community or from their families with regards to the choice they've made.
Wonderful. Great. So this has been another added value segment by having with me Talib and Amal. Again, today with knowing the growth that is happening in the market, if you know companies or if you are a company looking to expand in this part of the world, ignoring this simple cultural and Emiratization understanding in this part of the world can be detrimental, and taking it in consideration can be the differentiating factor that puts your companies ahead. So feel free to reach out and contact them at their information below. Until next time, sell more, sell faster, and profitably. See you soon.